Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome again to DEI Deathwatch, where we chronicle the downfall and the doubling down of diversity, equity, and inclusion. Welcome to Monday. Hope everybody's having a good Monday so far. And on the off chance that anybody is here from Latino Slant, either now or in the near future, welcome. And who's joining me on this beautiful Monday afternoon? The Alexander, good afternoon. Walter Tomaszewski, hello. Who else is here? Keeverdam, hello. And thank you, Keeverdam, as always, for providing the link to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society donation page. Guys, that's pinned to the top of the chat box. If you have the opportunity, please take a look at that. And if you can donate, please do so. But even if you can't, if you can share that out on social media, that would be appreciated. So thank you ahead of time for that. And thank you, Keeverdam, for providing the link. And what is this? Special visitors, the Misery Machine. Hey, Drewby and/or Yurgi, and/or the two of you. Hope you're doing good. Nice to see you. Thanks for stopping in. Hope you're having a good day. Also, there's Miranda Stone. Do you guys know about Miranda Stone? Well, let me tell you all about Miranda Stone. Also, Mike Savage, Blarg, The Mum, hello. Advocates Diaboli, hello. Alice Morgan, good afternoon. Kiro Soldier, hello. Who else is here? Twisted Skipster, hello. Juliet, hello. Kirsten Scholl over on the X Machine. Yes, guys, I'm simulcasting over on X, so if you happen to be on X or have an X account and see this over there, please do share it out. I'd appreciate it. Anybody else? I think that's everybody I see. If I missed you, if you're lurking, if you're in the future, good afternoon. So, let's get into it. We got a few stories to cover here. Let's start off with the Los Angeles Fire Department. You know, those, I mean, in one way, heroes beyond words because of what happened in the Palisades. On the other hand, a lot of discombobulation over there because of the leadership and elsewise over the last couple of years in particular. But yeah, the Los Angeles Fire Department is apparently getting rid of its DEI bureau. I wonder why that could be. I also wonder, is it true? Let's find out. In one of his final acts as mayor of Los Angeles, Eric Garcetti stood alongside Kristen Crowley, whom he had appointed as the city's first female fire chief, and announced a new bureau at the fire department. The Bureau of Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, created in November of 2022, was supposed to spearhead recruitment of underrepresented groups, including women, who were less than 4% of firefighters at the time. The Bureau was also supposed to make working for LAFD, quote, safe and supportive, unquote, for all. Instead, amid a maelstrom of budget cuts, a flurry of criticism from conservative media, and the targeting of DEI by the Trump administration, not because of overall performance issues or their inability to recruit enough people to balance out their scales or anything. No. Mayor Karen Bass has proposed folding the Equity Bureau into another part of the fire department. Looks like everybody's looking for an excuse except for how effective has it been? It's criticism that's making us do it. It's Trump making us do it. Oh, it's budget cuts. Okay. Of 9, quote, equity and inclusion, unquote, positions in the department, 5 were cut in Bass's proposed budget for the 2025-2026, I'm assuming, fiscal year, though the mayor's office said that would not result in any layoffs. Okay, which means that nobody had those positions? Because if you're cutting the positions, 5 of 9, but there would not result in any layoffs, then there was nobody filling. I don't understand. Quote, this was Karen Bass cowing to the Trump administration, said Rebecca Ninberg, a former fire commissioner under Garcetti. Quote, Chief Crowley was very proud of this, and they are basically eliminating this project during their installation of a whole new regime, unquote. Well, here's my question, and we'll see if the article answers this. In the 2.5 some odd years that the program has been in existence, the Bureau has been in existence, how effective has it been at achieving its goals? And, dare I ask, or the mechanisms towards achieving those goals in any way, shape, or form, risking violating Title VI or Title VII? I don't know why I'm asking those questions, but I just kind of have to now, don't I? Bass, who ousted Crowley in February, said that folding the Equity Bureau into the department's Professional Standards Division has nothing to do with anti-DEI campaigns. The fire department remains committed to diversity, including the recruitment of more female firefighters, she said. Quote, "That's the beauty of living in LA. I don't need to placate anybody over diversity and inclusion," she said in an interview Friday. Okay. Quote, "We are looking at doing some reorganization at that level, but we would never roll back the goals. We don't have any reason to do that at all," unquote. All right, so changing the name, not changing the mechanisms. So still, a lot of trucks going by outside. I don't know if you guys can hear that. Maybe we need to keep an eye on the LAFD for questionable practices, regardless of title of them. The LAFD did not respond to a request for comment. Conservative backlash against the Equity Bureau arose after the January 7th fire that devastated Pacific Palisades and surrounding areas. Yeah, I think the issues that caused the Pacific Palisades to be as devastating as they were started long before there was an Equity Bureau. So you can't really point to that inherently. Like, not having any water in the hydrants has less to do with DEI than it has to do with like bad city management and resource management. Now, unless, of course, the people in charge of the resource management and city management were all put into place because of DEI over the years, well, that might be another issue. A 2019 video resurfaced that featured Deputy Chief Christine Larson, who now leads the Equity Bureau, talking about being a black woman in the LAFD. In the video, Larson said that residents want first responders who look like them, which she said can feel more comfortable during emergencies. Yeah, you know, when I'm burning to death, if somebody shows up that doesn't look like me, you can just walk on by. I would rather turn into a crispy critter than be saved by someone who's there to save me. She also seemed to denigrate her own ability to carry someone out of a burning building. Quote, "He got himself in the wrong place if I have to carry him out of a fire," Larson said in the video, which went viral with outlets like the New York Post and pundits like Bill Maher using it to point out, quote, "questionable budget priorities," unquote, in liberal cities. Well, that's true. Bass in the Friday interview said she was not familiar with the video. You know, Karen Bass doesn't seem to know much of what anything's going on in her own city or her own departments or anything. You know, she has to be called away from, where was she? She was in Ghana or something when the fires were going on, even though she'd been warned ahead of time that the circumstances were such there might be an emergency in the near future. Yeah, Karen Bass is either completely oblivious, which I could believe, or lying, which I could also believe. A month before the Palisades fire, the city's fire commissioner reported that departures of key personnel in the Equity Bureau had compromised its ability to perform many of its stated goals, including developing a, quote, "robust equity and inclusion framework," unquote, whatever that means. Well, why did people keep departing the Equity Bureau? Why do they keep losing people? I was always told that DEI was about improving retention. Larson declined to comment on the 2019 video or the dissolution of the Equity Bureau. Well, shucks. She touted the Bureau's work on mediation and reconciliation for lower-level disputes between firefighters. Wait a second. The Equity Bureau was there for conflict resolution? That's the biggest compliment you can give it? She said the Bureau was also working on new grooming standards. And updates to its racial equity plan. Okay, what is its racial equity plan? Hopefully we find that out. Grooming standards? Okay, in another context, that could sound very sinister. In this instance, I'm just like, what? Like coming to work dressed well and looking nice and having a haircut or something? What? The slim representation of women in the LAFD has not appreciably increased since the Equity Bureau's formation, hovering at under 4% in 2023. Well, that's what I was wondering. So since November of 2022, it has not done anything to significantly increase the number of women in the fire department when that was its stated goal, mostly. I wonder why that might be. The LAFD is not alone in struggling to recruit female firefighters. Well, I wonder why that might be. Could it be, and I know, it's terrible for me to say, could it be that firefighting is an inherently dangerous and physically taxing task, and that oftentimes women don't go towards jobs and careers like that as much as men do? It doesn't mean they cannot. It's just that they often choose not to. I know. So how do you fix this obvious injustice, this obvious sexism that's totally not primarily based on personal choice? Well, we have to fund an entire bureau to fix this problem. And yet, despite how much money and personnel we try to push at this thing, somehow it's not fixing the quote-unquote problem. And I put quotation marks around the word problem because it's not a problem if it's a result of choice. But anyway, the LAFD is not alone in struggling to recruit female firefighters. Fewer than 5% of career firefighters in the U.S. are female, according to a 2018 national survey cited in a city report. Okay, so obviously this is the result of injustice, right? Obviously. About 30% of LA's firefighters were Latino in 2023, compared with 47% of the city's population. Okay. So, and how many of those? So is that a problem? Because the percentile between population demographics and firefighter demographics isn't exactly the same. Therefore, racism. About 11% of firefighters were black in a city that is 9% black. Oh, so they're overrepresented. What has that got to do with anything? Why do you put these statistics down without any context? Let's just okay, and? In a letter to the city council in March, the Los Angeles City Stentorians, a group of black firefighters, said the department under Crowley had seen an increase in reports of discrimination and harassment, along with an increase in discriminatory hiring practices. You don't say. Ninberg said she is concerned that the department will become less welcoming for women and Latinos. Hey, here's an idea. I know this is a crazy idea. What if you make the fire department more welcoming to people who want to become qualified firefighters? Full stop. How about we just worry about when it comes to essential services, we have people there who want to be there and are good at their jobs. Full stop. Why do you care about what people look like? You know what you call people who care about the gender of someone or the race of someone? There are a couple of words you might think of in this instance, in any other context, but here, obviously, it's a good thing. The city may end up spending more on lawsuits filed by firefighters from marginalized groups, she said. Why? Okay, I love these articles where they mention things, but they give no additional information. Who is suing the department or thinking about doing so? And what is their story? What's their justification? I mean, if you're a totally inclusive, diversity, equity, and inclusion fire department, why would anybody be filing complaints with you on discriminatory hiring practices? Who is doing that? Quote, "These are not little tiny issues, these are huge issues," she said. "It goes back to the status quo, which wasn't working, which is why the Equity Bureau got created in the first place," unquote, and apparently completely failed at its mandate. At the same time that Bass is proposing cuts in the Equity Bureau, her budget calls for an overall increase in fire department workers. Oh. To close the nearly $1 billion gap. Where'd all that money go? Yeah, we long ago on a Sunday stream, we talked about Karen Bass and her financial dealings and associations. That's a whole other thing. Bass proposes laying off 1,650 city workers while adding 227 positions at the fire department. About half the new hires would be firefighters in a department of just under 3,250 firefighters. The remaining new positions would include 25 new emergency medical technicians, in addition to mechanics and others. Crowley, who was also the LAFD's first openly openly LGBTQ plus chief, she was all of those things? All of those things at once? She was both lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer, and plus who knows what? Okay. Crowley asserted after the Palisades fire broke out that budget cuts had affected the LAFD's ability to fight the fire. Bass and her team said the department's budget had not been decreased and actually grew once employee raises were factored in. Let's talk about the water. But anyway, explaining her decision to remove Crowley as chief, Bass said she had not heard from Crowley amid worsening wind forecasts until after the fire broke out. She also questioned the chief's deployment decisions. You know, it sure sounds like Karen Bass is passing the buck, or bassing the buck, as the case may be. Bass was made aware of the conditions before she left. She went off to Africa anyway. That was her choice. Oh, my God. Crowley remains with the LAFD as Assistant Chief of Operations Valley Bureau, with Ronnie Villanueva, serving as the department's interim chief. Jimmy Woods Gray, a member of the city's fire commission, said that cutting the Equity Bureau is a necessary step in a tough budget year. Quote, "It's not going to impact the public and the safety of the people," she said. Well, shouldn't that be the first consideration when deciding where to put your money for the fire department? How is this going to service the public and safety? How does an equity bureau do that? I don't know. But apparently it both didn't do its job in increasing the number of women and so on. As far as non-white firefighters, I guess if I'm to infer from this article, it doesn't have enough Latino firefighters, but it has too many black firefighters. And yet you're still being charged with harassment or discrimination complaints. It sounds like it did a bang-up job. Whatever it was meant to do, I'm sure it did something it was supposed to. Jill Powers. Or passing the wind. Yes. Breaking the wind. What was that? There was a movie or a song or something. Breaks like the wind. I think it was something like that. Let's see. Advocate described like the reason there were no layoffs, these were positions they put people who had multiple positions in the fire department. That could also be true. Either they were positions unfilled or they just put another hat on somebody who already had a job and just gave them an extra bump in their pay. You're not laid off, you just get paid less for being a warm body we can put into the list of people on the bureau. That's also a possibility. Kay Roberts, we can have women firefighters, but as so long as they are 6'3", 225-pound transvestites named Anya. Yeah, there was this, it's from many years ago now, but, or maybe there's something more recent, I can't tell. But there was a video, I think it was out of Australia, where they had a team of men and they had a team of women, and they had to go through the same sort of obstacle course actions and physical requirements that you would have to do to be a firefighter, like kick down a door or carry a 150-pound weight over your shoulders and things like that. And, you know, as is mostly the case, on average, the women just couldn't do it. And so the question is, and has been the question for years and years when it comes to fire department equity initiatives and diversity programs and such, it's like, well, it might look nice to have more women in your firefighter pool, but when the rubber meets the road, can these women physically fulfill the necessities of the task? There's the same issue we have in the military and so on. Ranting Monkey and I had a long conversation about this when we were reviewing G.I. Jane. The most watched video on my channel is Ranting Monkey and I talking about the movie G.I. Jane. I know, I don't know why that is. I can only assume people looked at it and thought they were going to watch the movie itself, and so I got the clicks worth of counter on the views. But anyway, it's got like 200,000 views or something on it now. Did we just have a Latino slant raid? I see a Fletcher. in the chat. Hey, Fletcher, how's it going? Well, also, Snortopupus, Cuber. Prospective firefighters need to be able to meet physical requirements. Gender is not an issue. It's physical ability. Duh. Well, physical requirements, yes, but those requirements in some departments have been softened over the years to allow the possibility of firefighters who aren't as physically capable as others. Because, if they set different standards for genders, then that's also a potential discrimination suit. So they just lower the standards overall in order to allow the possibility of more women to be able to qualify. Things like that happened in New York, for example. So, yeah, it's been an issue. But anyway, on the G.I. Jane commentary, we talked about how one of the major issues, and they bring it up in the film, is the inability of the average and even athletic woman to lift a 200-pound, fully geared-out man from a burning tank or something, to say. And they make that point in the film. The character played by Viggo Mortensen talks about this. And by the time you get to the end of the movie, even the movie isn't going to make the audience think that Demi Moore, as buffed out as she was in that film, could actually fulfill that requirement by the end of the film. To save a person, she had to have help. Because it would look completely ridiculous to see Demi Moore dragging a fully kitted out Viggo Mortensen across the desert over her back or something to get him out of harm's way. And so G.I. Jane's one of those weird movies that I love the movie. It's one of my guilty pleasures. But it kind of proves its own problem within its own narrative, even though it's completely engineered as a piece of fiction. But anyway, is that why it's the most viewed? Because of Ranting Monkey and I? Probably. It's us. Also, Latino Slant. How you doing, Polly? Hope you had a good show over on Latino Slant. Guys, if you don't know about Latino Slant, go check out Latino Slant on YouTube. Has all of your entertainment news on different things, but with a slant, if you will, towards Latino things, actors and issues and so on. So take a look at that when you have the opportunity. Anyway, moving on, let's go to somebody I haven't talked about or profiled on my channel for a long, long time, and that is The Root. Do you guys remember The Root? I remember The Root. It, long ago, was a pretty good source of content for my scripted videos, where they'd put out little editorials and explanatory videos and things on black feminism and DEI and all types of things. Well, The Root has done a lot of work for me, because now I get to refer to this. A list of companies still committed to DEI initiatives. Well, let's see. I assume we'll see something on there by, let's see. Well, I guess Target wouldn't be one of them. Target's now infamous for having rolled things back. We'll find out. While hundreds of companies have rolled back on their DEI efforts, these businesses have proudly decided to keep supporting DEI. Ben & Jerry's. Didn't they just get rid of one of the Bens or the Jerry's because of his activism had driven profits down into the toilet over the last 10 years? It's a slideshow, oh boy. Since Donald Trump attacked diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives, companies such as Walmart have turned its back on their DEI initiatives. However, not all businesses have decided to follow Donald Trump's guidance, or say the guidance of federal law, but whatever. Instead, these companies on have stood. On have stood? On have stood. Okay, instead, these companies on have stood by their decision to keep DEI practices. Here is a list of companies that continue to advocate for marginalized communities. All right, so let's begin. We have Kroger. All right. In a statement to the Cincinnati Enquirer, the grocery store said in defense of DEI, quote, Kroger has a set of values that have guided what we do for half a century. Two of these values are inclusion and diversity. Sounds a lot like Marriott hotels we talked about the other day. So Kroger, all right, I will keep that in mind. I'm not saying that every other DEI Deathwatch show is going to be a research stream where I've gone in and done a deep dive on stuff, but It might be. Moving on, Apple, of course. Apple has stated it will continue to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion. The company also encouraged shareholders to reject anti-DEI proposals. Yeah, I think they had a shareholders meeting not too long ago that did that. All right, so Kroger and Apple. J.P. Morgan, speaking with CNBC, J.P. Morgan CEO Jamie Dimon said, quote, "We are going to continue to reach out to the Black community, the Hispanic community, the veterans community," unquote. Oh, veterans. Always a bridesmaid, never a bride. Always like a tertiary or somewhere down on the list, always veterans are brought up. You know, after we mention the people who have actually earned something in life, who have actually had some demonstration of merit. We always mention them after racial or gender demographics that say nothing of one's character or merit. But, you know, you're out there, guys. Veterans, yeah, we still thinking about you, veterans. I love when these guys do this. It's great. Okay, J.P. Morgan. Who else? Ben & Jerry's. Ben & Jerry's has a history of advocating for marginalized communities, so it is no surprise that the company has stood 10 toes down on their commitment to DEI by writing a statement on its site. Yes, and how has all of that activism been going for Ben & Jerry's over the last several years? What has all of that money spent on those initiatives done for Ben & Jerry's? Remember when Ben & Jerry's put out, it was some kind of statement or ice cream or something talking about land stolen from the Indians? And all the Indians said, well, then why don't you give back the land where your headquarters sits? Yeah, that was a rough one for Ben & Jerry's. They didn't quite know what to do about that one. That was funny. Goldman Sachs. As stated on their website, Goldman Sachs believes that having a diverse workforce is critical to the success of the company. Quote, "We strive for excellence. To achieve it, we must have the best people, and the best people are drawn from the broadest pool of applicants." Well, that is exactly countermanded by DEI policies. They're not mentioning that Goldman Sachs actually dropped their requirement for partnered businesses to have 50% women on their board of directors. I'm surprised that Goldman Sachs is on this list. If you want the broadest pool of candidates and applicants, you don't engage in DEI. That's a bizarre choice. Moving on, Costco. Ah, yes, Costco. Something of a DEI folk hero, the Costco board in December rejected measures to limit DEI initiatives. Quote, "Our commitment to an enterprise rooted in respect and inclusion is appropriate and necessary." You know, I think of all the companies, I should probably do a little research on Costco to find some examples of their past publications on their DEI initiatives, since they're such a standout hero for the movement. Moving on, Disney. Oh yes, Disney. Oh boy, we've seen the fruits of DEI's labor in Disney over the last several years. In March, Disney shareholders voted for the company's participation in the Human Rights Campaign Foundation's Corporate Equality Index. This would measure Disney's support for LGBTQ+ causes, and the company has received nothing but perfect scores, according to the Advocate. Well, great. How's that translated over into box office in the last 10 years or so? Great, you're on the Human Rights Campaign's Equality Index, which is just a scorecard of evidence of potential, civil rights violations and hiring practices. But hey, you go, Disney. Let's see, what's the next Disney thing I'm going to watch? I've got my ticket for Thunderbolts on Thursday. I'm seeing an early showing on Thursday, so I can be back here in time for TED Excellence. So I'll let you know Thursday what I thought of Disney's latest Marvel offering. Microsoft, as stated on their site, Microsoft believes that diversity and inclusion are critical to its mission as a company. Quote, "Empower every person and every organization on the planet to achieve more," unquote. Every person? Every person? Is it every? Okay. Maybe you're not doing your DEI correctly. That would be a good thing. Pinterest. Okay, I can't honestly say that I even had that company in my orbit mentally. Pinterest CEO Bill Ready said, or Reedy, quote, "We're not changing anything. And the reason is we've seen it's actually leading to better engagement. There's consumer demand for it. It's good for our business," unquote. I would love to see Pinterest's internal metrics on that. How do they measure consumer demand for it? Consumer demand for questionable hiring practices in contradiction to federal law? Really? If you say so. Because again, like I say, just because something's called DEI does not mean it's inherently illegal or questionable, but it is a red flag. We're almost done here. Cisco Systems. Hey, look at who it is. It's Cisco. Hey, Pancho. Hey, Cisco. Let's ride. I just profiled Cisco on Friday, pardon me. Yeah. Chuck Robbins, CEO of Cisco, stated, quote, "If I'm sitting in a room to try and solve a complex problem or to chase a big opportunity, I want a lot of diverse brains in that room. And I don't care if it's gender or if it's nationality or if it's just diversity of experience. Diversity in general is good for business," unquote. You know what, Chuck? I agree with you. So why even tempt fate with having what I recorded on the show the other day, demonstrably racist and sexist hiring situations? Why? If you don't care, then why do you care what someone looks like in your own company's publications? You contradict yourself, sir. Delta Airline, oh my gosh! I just talked about Delta the other day, too. Executive Vice President Peter Carter stated that Delta is steadfast in its commitment to DEI practices because, quote, "they're actually critical to our business," unquote. Do tell. Peter, by all means, tell me, what is the ROI on DEI? How did anything that I profiled on Friday lead to better financial outcomes for your business? Please, I honestly want to know. I've been waiting better part of 10 years for somebody to give me the poster child success story of DEI increasing profits and everything else, but somehow they just can't seem to get there. It's a difference between correlation and causation. We increased our DEI program. Look how our profits went up. Oh, did your DEI program increase profits? Look how much our profits went up. Yeah. Okay. Almost done. Who's next? Is it going to be Marriott Hotels? That'd be great. No, Elf on a Shelf. Oh, wait, no, that's ELF Beauty. I was excited there for a second. In a LinkedIn post, ELF Beauty CEO Tarang Amin stated that the company's mission. So you changed it to a plural rather than a possessive. Okay, the company's mission is to, quote, "make the best beauty accessible to every eye, lip, and face," unquote. Amin believes having a diverse workforce is how ELF will accomplish this mission. Why? How? Okay, if you say so. And then Salesforce CEO Mark Benioff stated, quote, "if somebody's going to come after our employees or discriminate against them in any way, we'll do everything we can to help support them." Mark, you missed the memo. It's the DEI that does the discrimination. It's not anybody coming from outside discriminating against you. You're doing that yourself if you engage in this stuff. Man, am I going to have to profile Salesforce now? I guess I'll probably have to. And was that the last slide? Nope, that was the last slide. Okay, so there you go, guys. A couple of previously looked at individual companies and some more that I guess I have to look into. Costco and Salesforce and now ELF. Makeup? Really? That's girl stuff. K. Roberts, well, Cisco did kill a bunch of my peers in combat arenas. Makes sense. What? I don't. Oh, is this like what am I thinking of? like faulty equipment on the battlefield kind of stuff. I'm not making to make light of it. For a second there, I thought it was like a Star Trek reference or something. I apologize, Kay Roberts. If it is what I'm thinking of, clarity would be fine. But yeah, sorry about that. Jill Powers, having Pinterest is like having MySpace. Yeah, I never really understood Pinterest. I never really understood. It just looked like, okay, it's just a photo sharing site. And maybe that's just my, layman's understanding of it. I didn't really understand what else it was good for, but sharing pictures of stuff. Can't you do that on Facebook? You can do that on Instagram and a billion other things. I don't know. I don't know why Pinterest took off versus other platforms, if at all. Frosted Glass, good afternoon. And thank you so much. Did you get the McDonald's DEI article I DM'd you? I did not. And I've got 5 different windows open right now. So which DM? Are you talking about, like the Twitter or Discord? But I will find it eventually, and I will add it to maybe the next show. Snot, watch and scribe while pooping. Well, I appreciate your engagement, Snot. It's wonderful. Morgan King, Lush makeup is one you should up. Lush makeup. I thought Lush was just like novelty soaps or something. Because there was a Lush store in the mall I used to work at long ago. You go in there, they have all these like cakes of soap, and they cut you off a slice and put it in a thing. And if you didn't know any better, it was a pastry or something. Advocatus, every day this whole DEI thing just becomes more and more two people talking past one another and not to one another. It's so interesting to watch the psychology of it, because ever since Trump issued his executive order, it's become now not so much a I'm on the right side of history thing. It's become a I'm going to oppose Trump. Doubling down on DEI is not inherently a right thing to do. It's a, well, I don't want to capitulate to Trump thing to do. So it's become part of the tribal language at this point. More so than I think before, because it's become politicized by Trump. But again, as I've said before, it really only matters to me up to the point where they actually start enforcing the law on these companies and organizations that have pushed this stuff and violated the law all this time. We're starting to see some moves here and there, some harsh words being said, but unless or until we actually see a federal lawsuit against a major corporation or entity or something that takes them to task for these practices, so far it's just smoke. And again, companies like Costco and Goldman Sachs and Walmart, and so I guess Walmart walked things back. Anyway, these big companies, Cisco Systems and elsewise, the fact that they feel so confident in doubling down on this stuff just means they don't fear any consequences. Somebody has got to put the fear into them to make them stop. Otherwise, it'll just keep going. You have to be scared to get caught. Even if you're a bad actor, at the very least, you have to be scared to get caught. These guys are not scared of getting caught. I DM'd it to you on Twitter about a month ago. Okay. Well, I mean, I've talked about McDonald's on here regarding DEI before. So if it's a month-old article, it might be something I've already talked about. If you want to zap it to me again at some point, I'll take a look. But at this stage, I think I've covered McDonald's in the past, especially over a month ago. Moving on to a different kind of checklist. This one comes from Fox. Defunding DEI. Here's how the Trump administration has undone Biden's very prized programs. Okay, so let's get some accomplishments here. After we listed all of the people still doubling down, let's get some downfall part of it. Trump signed executive orders to eliminate all DEI programs across the federal government, spilling into the private sector. Well, my question is, how successful has that been so far? President Donald Trump shut down all diversity, equity, and inclusion offices across the federal government during his first week in office and signed a number of executive orders to quickly undo former President Joe Biden's efforts. The president, just hours after taking the oath of office on Inauguration Day, January 20th, signed an executive order to eliminate all DEI programs from the federal government. He also quickly signed an order making it, quote, the official policy of the U.S. government to only recognize two genders, male and female, unquote. A day later, the president directed the Office of Personnel Management to notify heads of agencies and departments to close all DEI offices and place those government workers in those offices on paid leave. That move quickly forced those offices to take down all outward-facing media, websites, social media accounts, and more for those DEI offices, and required the withdrawal of any final pending documents, directives, orders, materials, and equity plans. Trump also canceled current and impending contracts focused on DEI initiatives with Elon Musk, who heads up the Department of Government Efficiency, saying that move saved the federal government $420 million. You can buy that stick of gum you always wanted. The president also issued two other executive actions that day targeting DEI. One was an executive order to end discrimination in the workplace and higher education through race and sex-based preferences under the guise of DEI. That's not so much under the guise, that's kind of its inherent purpose. The other was a memo to eliminate a Biden administration policy that prioritized DEI hiring at the Federal Aviation Administration. In the memo rolling back Biden's DEI hiring practices at the FAA, Trump ordered the Secretary of Transportation and FAA administrator to immediately stop Biden's DEI hiring programs and return to non-discriminatory, merit-based hiring. Trump also required that the FAA administrator review the past performance and performance standards of all agency employees in critical safety positions and make it clear that anyone who fails to demonstrate adequate capability is replaced by someone who will ensure flight safety and efficiency. Quote, illegal and discriminatory diversity, equity, and inclusion hiring, including on the basis of race, sex, disability, or any other criteria other than the safety of airline passengers and overall job excellence, competency, and qualification, harms all Americans who deserve to fly with confidence, unquote, the memo read. Kind of reminds me of the Los Angeles Fire Department. Like, hire people who know how to fight fires and save people. That should be the only standard. The memo stated, quote, all so-called DEI initiatives, including all dangerous preferencing policies or practices, shall immediately be rescinded in favor of hiring, promoting, and otherwise treating employees on the basis of individual capability, competence, achievement, and dedication, unquote. Trump also rescinded Biden's order on diversity initiatives, quote, advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government, unquote, which he signed on the first day in office in 2021. In February, the Department of Education also warned state education departments that they must remove DEI policies or risk losing federal funding. If they haven't done so already, I'd say the Trump administration needs to remove the federal funding from the state of Oregon, the state of Massachusetts, and the state of Vermont, just writ large. Those are just three, but also probably New York, and in the story we're about to do after this one, probably Michigan as well. That move came after Trump signed executive orders directing agencies to provide a plan to eliminate federal funding for, quote, illegal and discriminatory treatment and indoctrination in K-12 schools, including based on gender ideology and discriminatory equity ideology. Or, as I've said any number of times now, you could just say, golly gee whiz, are you or are you not complying with Title VI? Are any of your programs or activities violating Title VI? If so, the federal government can just take away your federal funding. It's written right there. It's been there for years. You don't even have to mention DEI. It's unnecessary. It's superfluous. Let's see. The president's efforts to end DEI across the federal government also prompted the cancellation of such programs across the private sector. Well, yeah, I guess it prompted it, because if you violate Title VI initiatives, you're coming pretty close probably in violating Title VII. Also the fact that the private sector Any business that accepts a federal contract is accepting federal financial assistance, which means they also fall under Title VI. But I guess we won't talk about that here. Meta in January canceled its DEI programs, as did McDonald's. Hey, there you go, Frosted Glass. And after the 2024 election, Walmart, Ford Motor Company, John Deere, Lowe's, and Toyota also ended DEI programs. Or more accurately, they just stopped using that term. You have to keep on them, and also they should not be able to get away with past bad acts. But anyway, as recently as April, according to Forbes, IBM, Gannett, and Constellation Brands Incorporated made changes to DEI policies. Earlier in 2025, United Health Group, Major League Baseball, Victoria's Secret, Warner Brothers Discovery, Goldman Sachs, Paramount, Bank of America, BlackRock, Citigroup, Pepsi, JP Morgan Chase, Morgan Stanley, Coca-Cola, Deloitte, PBS, Google, Disney, GE, PayPal, Chipotle, and more scaled back or canceled their DEI programs. Well, that's weird because I could have sworn that the Root just told us that JP Morgan is still supporting its DEI programs. Okay. And also, as far as Paramount's concerned, they basically admitted in their announcement that they had been using discriminatory practices for years prior to this. Is anything going to happen to them? Not to mention that they just settled a lawsuit, or at least CBS did, related to Paramount, of discrimination in the writer's room on the basis of race. Oh well. Meanwhile, in March, the National Institutes of Health rescinded the agency's, quote, scientific integrity policy, unquote, implemented during the last few weeks of Biden's term to peel back any DEI requirements. That Biden-era policy said that DEI was a, quote, integral, unquote, part of the entire scientific process. DEI was integral to the entire scientific process. Oh, really? Okay. And pushed NIH's chief scientist and top scientific integrity official to, quote, promote agency efforts regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion, unquote. Yes, because when I'm thinking of like the National Institutes of Health, I want them to be spending time worrying over the pigmentation of someone they may be hiring. It also instituted agency-wide policy directives ordering supervisors at the NIH to support scientists and researchers who are asexual or intersex, while imploring NIH leadership to, quote, confer with relevant offices, unquote, when additional DEI expertise is needed. What kind of special support in a professional capacity does someone who is asexual need exactly? If I go to work and I'm asexual, what do I have to expect my supervisor to do to support me in a professional environment? I would love to know. Quote, the Biden administration weaponized NIH's scientific integrity policy to inject, nice pun, harmful DEI and gender ideology into research, said Health and Human Services Department spokesperson Andrew Nixon. Quote, rescinding this scientific integrity policy will allow NIH to restore science to its golden standard and protect the integrity of science, unquote. Well, it will instill a bit more credibility, certainly. The Biden administration also funded grants related to DEI, such as one for roughly $165,000 that was focused on, quote, queering the curriculum, unquote, for family medicine doctors to guide them in their treatment of transgender patients. Those grants have been canceled. Queering the curriculum. How many panel discussions or interviews have I done about queering something or other? Like queering your counseling practices in mental health, or queering television broadcasting or something. It's just... And earlier this week, multiple federal agencies told Fox News Digital that they have dropped millions of dollars in contracts for LinkedIn services over the business social network's embrace of DEI. Uh-oh. Sorry, LinkedIn. The Departments of Treasury, Interior, and Veterans Affairs dropped LinkedIn, a move to comply with the president's executive order banning federal agencies from contracting with companies that embrace DEI policies. Well, okay, so if that's so, then I don't know. Does the government have any contracts with Delta or JP Morgan or Cisco Systems? I'm curious. Or if they did, do they still have those contracts? Quote, every American taxpayer should be angry that the Biden administration wasted so much money on contracts like these, unquote, an Interior Department spokesperson told Fox News Digital. Quote, under the leadership of President Trump, we have been combing through hundreds of thousands of contracts here at the department alone and are canceling wasteful, woke, and downright ridiculous contracts that do not align with the will of the American people, unquote. Well, I mean, credit where credit is due in that regard, but I got to tell you, President Trump, a lot of this stuff was going on the first time you were president. I have more than a little bit of a library of company promotional videos and panel discussions and stuff with companies that certainly had government contracts that were doing this stuff. So I'm glad you're finally doing something about it. I am. But that kind of waste was still taking place the last time you were in the office. A LinkedIn spokesperson told Fox News Digital in response that, quote, like every business, the organizations that use our products change, often driven by shifts in their budgets and priorities. We're keeping our focus on helping our customers achieve the objectives they've set, unquote. That's not the issue, LinkedIn. Oh, boy. Okay, I got to make a new list. Okay, I've got to do LinkedIn, and what was the other one? Costco, and there was a third one that I'm suddenly blanking on. Someone will remind me, or I'll remember between now and then. I got to do another research stream. I got to find out. For myself what constitutes their DEI policies. If they really are just focused on nothing other than, oh, that's right, Salesforce. Okay, Salesforce. All right. Maybe I will make every other stream a company profile stream. That seems like a reasonable expectation now. Chris Gilroy, science uses math, and we all know math is racist. Well, if you believe the equity in math crowd, then you're right. I've done more than a couple of videos on math equity and the equity toolkit for mathematics and so on. There's a boy, oh boy. I remember looking at a program that was sponsored by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and just the absolute miles of publication and literature on their math equity program was just too much. I couldn't cover it all on a stream. There was just way, way too much. It was insane. Absolutely insane. Snortapoopus, my moobs keep sagging. I need special support. Well, what can I tell you? Maybe Victoria's Secret will help you keep it a secret. I don't know. Walter Tomaszewski, anyone know if I'm right or not? Well, it depends on your politics. Let's see. I thought that the federal government cannot be sued without its permission. I don't know how that works regarding state governments. Well, you can sue the federal government, I think, anytime you want. Whether or not your case will be taken up or you'll have a chance at actually winning is a whole other question. But I think there are some... I seem to recall there's some areas where like some elements of the government are held harmless from prosecution or something, but I don't know about civil lawsuits. I guess it all depends. I'm not a legal expert, so don't take my word for it. Do. And if you get that one, then there you go. The mom. Wait. Math is easiest? No, math is not easiest. I'm an English major. If math was easiest, I'd be a math magic major. You know what I'm saying. And if you don't, you have my apologies. But I have one more story for you today. And also, strangely enough, it does kind of lean back into education. Attorney General Nessel. Trump vendetta against DEI in schools is, quote, not based in fact. Oh my gosh, guys. DEI and critical race theory and social justice and all that stuff, it's not based in fact. It just doesn't happen in schools. Curriculum of Fear playlist. Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel joins the weekend to break... Wait, what? What? There's supposed to be a story here. It's a headline. Where's the story? No, I want the story. What? This is not a story? This is an interview? What is this? I was misled. I went to a news site. I saw a headline. I thought I was going to get a story. Wait a second. Wait a second. Hold on. Is there a video? There's a video. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Dare I? Dare I? I don't know, guys. Should I risk getting an MSNBC video and playing it? Apparently it's a video interview. I thought it was an article. No, it's an interview. Oh my gosh. Live on the... I can only hope the audio quality is pretty good. I can only hope the audio quality... Okay, give me a moment here. Let me find a pathway to this interview. I apologize. I was under the distinct impression I was going to be reading an article of comments from the AG of Michigan regarding this. But I guess we have to go to an interview. All right. Well, I will roll the dice. Because this is, as you know, transformative. It's all about commentary and criticism. Anybody watching in the future. Let me see if I can find where this interview begins. No. I want to get to the interview. Let's see. Okay, here we go. All right. Apologies for the interruption. Live TV. Let's move on to this here. And I will change over to my wonderful little overlay for DEI Deathwatch. All right, so here we go, guys. This is going to be an interview with the AG, the Attorney General of Michigan. Hopefully, let's see, I have the volume up. The volume is as high as it can go. I hope it's loud enough. You guys let me know if you can hear it, and we'll proceed.
Diversity programs in their public schools. Joining us now to talk about that, Michigan Attorney General Dana Nessel.
General Nessel, so good to have you at the table.
Okay, so yes, several different school districts. Well, I mean, there was a memo issued to the school districts in this country a couple weeks ago now that said if you do not roll back your DEI policies, you will lose federal funding. And I'm still waiting for which school districts are going to lose federal funding for not complying with the memo. Still waiting. Oregon's a good candidate.
In that lawsuit, you note that Trump's directives put more than $18.7 billion of federal funding for education at risk. States that the Trump administration has, quote, repeatedly failed to define the conduct that they seek to punish or prohibit, or what constitutes illegal DEI.
Well, I can help you out with that right now, Attorney General Nessel. I've got it right here. I know it's a really obscure piece of legislation, but it's called Title VI of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It prohibits discrimination on the basis of race, color, and national origin in programs and activities receiving federal financial assistance. And since public schools receive federal financial assistance as a matter of course, and money is fungible, then if they are doing anything in a program or activity that elevates or denigrates anyone, student, teacher, or otherwise, on the basis of race or national origin, they're in violation. I know it's really complicated stuff. Really really complicated stuff.
Talk me through this lawsuit.
Well, I mean, it's the same problem that we see on a lot of these executive orders that have been drafted by the Trump administration, signed by President Trump.
Such as?
There's seemingly no rhyme or reason. There's certainly no legal definition.
I'm going to keep pointing at the sign. I'm just going to keep pointing at the sign. It's very simple. Now, admittedly, Trump and the rest of his team really need to lean more in to established federal civil rights laws and not just say diversity, equity, and inclusion as the key words that anybody can then say, oh, that's not clear enough. That's too ambiguous. Because in some technical instances, they might have a point, even if it is annoying, smug, and pedantic. All the same, you're the Attorney General for Michigan. Do you understand Title VI? Because if you do, you might have a clue.
Many of them to me sound as though they've been drafted by a psychotic toddler.
Oh, okay. How so?
I mean, these are not the kinds of words or language that we normally see written
Like what?
in a legal document. And there's no way, even if one wanted to comply, even if it was legal and it did not violate state law.
What violates state law? And I'm asking sincerely, like what about adhering to Title VI violates state law?
And federal law to comply. There's really no way to know if you're in compliance or not. And to talk about defunding our schools in this manner, knowing that there's really nothing that you're ever going to be able to do correctly. And I look at things like Columbia University.
Oh, you're going to give us some examples? Okay, what about Columbia University?
And their attempts at appeasement. Or I look at the law firms.
No, wait. I'm having a Ted Excellent situation here. Okay, if you're going to make a persuasive argument about this, you have to give us some examples as they pertain to your argument. Look at Columbia University. Okay, I'm looking at Columbia University. Oh, and also about the law firms. No, wait, what about Columbia University? Tell me about the law firms.
That, signed these agreements saying, okay, we're going to do what you want, and that way we'll be in the clear. We're not going to be punished.
Yes, I think the whole dedicate part of your law firm's efforts to programs and situations that I like to get out of trouble. I don't like people being able to buy their way out of accountability. And Trump giving those law firms the option to, if you dedicate X number of pro bono hours to causes and situations that I approve of, then I won't come after you, is BS. If you're a law firm, if you're a school, if you're a business, if you're a nonprofit, whatever, and you practice discriminatory actions in your hiring, your programs, your activities, whatever, and at any point you've accepted federal money, then you should be held accountable. You shouldn't be able to buy your way out of a problem. This is not the precedent I want set. But that's a whole other issue.
There is no really getting out of it, because when you, as I guess Winston Churchill used to say, when you feed the crocodile hoping that you'll get eaten last, you're still getting eaten eventually. I mean, that.
How are the law firms who are effectively paying off the Trump administration to avoid any kind of accountability or lawsuit, how are they going to be eaten up anyway? What are you talking about? Not that I'm approving of that, but I mean, you bring up the law firm, so how does that work?
There's no way to ensure that you are eventually not going to be punished by this administration, because nothing will ever be good enough for them.
You haven't made any kind of argument in regards to public schools, federal funding, and discriminatory programs. We don't know what DEI means. There's no definition to it. Really? There's no definition of DEI after all this time?
That is so true.
She busts out with a bunch of disconnected nonsense. And Michael Steele is just, that's so true.
I just help me understand how this administration has been so successful at claiming something is illegal that is not written into any law in the country. And
it's not written into any law in the country. Okay. On the one hand, the administration and state legislatures are making a mistake in making DEI the label as though it were something new. It is not anything new. They're making the mistake in saying that and using that as the watchword because that confuses the issue and allows them to hide behind those three special words and their dictionary definitions. At the same time, anyone who knows anything about what DEI actually does in practice knows that it tempts fate at best with established federal civil rights law. So for somebody to say, none of this is illegal, it's never been written down as illegal, they're either ignorant or lying. In Michael Steele's case, I could see it going either way.
and that's diversity, equity, and inclusion as a thing.
As a thing. Michael Steele. I got a few separate words for you. Democratic People's Republic of Korea. I mean, obviously that's what it is because the words say so, right, Michael? But there's not any other words you could use to describe what actually goes on behind those words, are there? Well,
And so now we find ourselves, to your point, witnessing how that's been sort of the cudgel to use against other institutions, universities, now our museums.
Wait. Okay, so everyone is suddenly oblivious as to what DEI means, and that's a cudgel that Trump is using. Who's been using that as a cudgel? A moral cudgel over and over, and it still does in their own publications. Every company on the planet pushing this stuff uses those three words as cudgels to do away with any debate, any pushback, and to mark anybody who would question the practices of these things as being, are you against diversity? What are you, some kind of racist or sexist? Are you kidding me, Michael Steele? Oh, of course, you're Michael Steele. Why would you be kidding me?
Here in the nation's capital and around the country. What, from a legal standpoint, how do you go in and make the case that the administration is sort of making up law and giving weight to something that doesn't exist in the form that they claim it does as a thing written down, well, on this paragraph, this DEI paragraph, the law says this.
You know, this is the worst TEDx talk I've ever listened to.
That's not the case here. It's an idea. It's something that we aspire to diversity. We aspire to some level of inclusion.
Right, Michael. Okay, by what mechanism are these goals fulfilled? That's the question, Michael. If somebody says there's not enough of those kinds of people in the workforce over there, all right, by what mechanism does the company go about solving for that problem? Is it discriminatory? Is it weighing race or gender against merit? And if so, Michael, then depending on the circumstances, they would be violating Title VI and or Title VII. Long-established federal civil rights laws, Michael. I love how suddenly everybody's suddenly playing dumb. I have no idea. What does DEI even mean? Trump brings this up in his executive orders, but it's just too amorphous, guys. It's too abstract. This thing we promoting and celebrating all this time, obviously nobody knows what it really means. Are you kidding me?
Equity, how do we now find ourselves where that's illegal?
Yeah, I mean, it's just years of disinformation, misinformation, much of it, I think, coming from social media.
Oh, do tell me, what's the misinformation? Because, you know, I've watched more than my fair share of DEI myth conversations before.
Nothing that's based in fact.
Such as, remember, this is the Attorney General for Michigan. So if anybody should have some practice at making a convincing argument to an audience, this should be the lady. And I'm waiting for it.
right? I mean, is teaching the Civil War illegal?
No. No, it's not. It is telling kids in the classroom that based on their skin color, they have some moral victimhood or villain narrative they have to take part in because of that?
DEI is teaching about Jim Crow or Brown v. Board of Education. Is that illegal DEI? Clearly.
Okay. Teaching things. You think that that's what constitutes DEI? Okay, now you've gone into critical race theory. You're not even talking about DEI at this point. You're talking about critical race theory when it comes to what's taught in schools. It's not so much as what's taught, it's how it is taught and what conclusions students are forced to make as a result of these teachings. It's a difference between teaching fact and teaching students to feel a certain way about themselves on the basis of those facts. Okay, and once again, either you have absolutely no idea what you're talking about, or you're being intentionally obtuse.
It's not, but it's just this long time effort, I guess, to poison people against, honestly, just learning the truth.
Oh my gosh, this lady is a true believer. She's an absolute true believer. She should really sit down sometime and listen to the actual advocates for DEI and read the documentation coming out of companies about DEI. And then as the Attorney General of Michigan, set those things up alongside Title VI, Title VII, Title IX, depending on the circumstances. Long established civil rights laws.
And that's why in the very beginning, one of the executive orders that was drafted really was an effort to go after teachers and to threaten them with prosecution for what they called radical indoctrination.
Have you listened to teachers lately, Attorney General Nessel? I've got some videos I could show you.
And I right away put something out to the teachers of the state of Michigan and just said, this is ridiculous. First of all, you make law through an executive order. That's not how you create a criminal statute.
You're right. Executive orders should not be, and hopefully they cannot be, but should not be used to make law. Unless, of course, you're Barack Obama and we're talking about DACA, but that's a whole other situation. No, but here's the thing. You don't need the executive orders to make new law because the laws already exist. And I could repeat myself, but you know what I'm going to say. So you're right. The executive orders to me were unnecessary. It should have just been, I direct the Department of Justice to investigate school systems for potential civil rights violations. And you can say that that's spurred on by this DEI movement, but don't make it about DEI. Just say we're going to do an audit of school districts for potential civil rights violations. That would have made things a lot simpler.
You still have to involve something called Congress
for
federal laws. You would need a state legislature and a governor for a state law. But it's the threat, right? It's the threat that it really scares people and gets, whether it's teachers, whether it's people in universities, whether it's recipients of all kinds of different grants.
Attorney General Nessel, in this entire interview, if you do not even mention or cover the requirements and mechanisms of Title VI in any way, shape, or form, you are doing a disservice and promoting misinformation to the public. Does Title VI not come up at all here? Even if you would disagree with the president, even if you think that DEI does not trip the wire of Title VI, you're not even going to bring it up?
At colleges, just scared out of their mind, and they don't know what to do because they don't know what the punishment is going to be.
The punishment is going to be removal of federal funding in violation of Title VI. That's what it's going to be. If it is anything at all, that's what the federal government can do in the lowest hanging fruit of its power when it comes to institutions that accept federal financial assistance. And universities and colleges are just the most outstanding individual entities that have that. But it could be a company that accepts a federal contract.
And that's why I think it's so important that as state AGs that we are fighting back, not just on behalf of the states that we represent, but on behalf of the people who live in the states that we represent, so that they know these are illegal orders. And
why are they illegal? They may be badly worded or something, but they all hit upon. Hold on. All right. What does Trump's DEI executive order actually say? Let me find the text here. Okay. And apologies, I'm going to read this off screen so I don't have to switch between the video and something else. By the authority vested in me as the President by the Constitution and the laws of the United States of America, it is hereby ordered, Section 1, Purpose and Policy. The Biden administration forced illegal and immoral discrimination programs going by the name diversity, equity, and inclusion into virtually all aspects of the federal government in areas ranging from airline safety to the military. This was a concerted effort stemming from President Biden's first day in office when he issued Executive Order 13985, quote, advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government, unquote. Pursuant to Executive Order 13985 and follow-on orders, nearly every federal agency and entity submitted, quote, equity action plans, unquote, to detail the ways they have furthered DEI's infiltration of the federal government. The public release of these plans demonstrated immense public waste and shameful discrimination. That ends today. Americans deserve a government committed to serving every person with equal dignity and respect and to expanding precious taxpayer resources only on making America great. Section 2, Implementation. The Director of the Office of Management and Budget, assisted by the Attorney General and Director of the Office of Personnel Management, shall coordinate the termination of all discriminatory programs, including illegal DEI and diversity, equity, and inclusion and accessibility mandates, policies, programs, preferences, and activities in the federal government under whatever name they appear. The predicate to this is illegal. If they are already illegal, they need to be eliminated. And what would establish them as illegal, Attorney General Nessel? That they violate existing law. And what existing laws might these include? Oh, you are the Attorney General for Michigan. And you're saying you have absolutely no idea. The language they're using is written by some psychotic 2-year-old. Seems pretty clear to me. Whatever they are called is included in there. The DEI thing is just a familiar moniker for these programs and activities, but it is all predicated on the basis of if they are illegal in the first place. It doesn't make DEI illegal. It says anything within it that is illegal needs to stop.
You know what? The courts have, in large part, agreed with us.
I mean, I think it is very important that the state attorney generals have been pushing back because, you know, when the president sits in a meeting and says, well, we are the law, I think the attorney generals pushing back, underscoring, no, sir, you are not the law. We are a country of laws, not of men.
And are there any particular laws you'd like to discuss in relation to schools and the removal of funding? Anything?
Can we take a turn and ask you about some stuff that's been going on in Michigan? Earlier this, all my weeks come together, it was earlier this week. Last week.
Sunday.
Oh, it's Sunday. There we go.
There he is.
Last week, there were raids that were executed in about 3 different jurisdictions in Michigan, specifically related to a vandalism investigation.
Okay, we went way off topic. But okay.
And I just want to read on that we have on the information on this. The homes of pro-Palestinian protesters.
Pro-Palestinian protesters. Is that how they're being classified on MSNBC?
Were raided in a multi-jurisdictional vandalism investigation. It was FBI along with local and state law enforcement. They were involved in the raids. Your office clarified that immigration officers were not involved and all involved were American citizens.
So could it have been some kind of, I don't know, hate crime or some kind of targeted vandalism or harassment or something?
Your office said that the searches did not pertain to on-campus protest activity, but a multi-jurisdictional investigation into vandalism.
Okay. So what's the controversy?
I just have to ask, because when I first read about this, it made me wonder that if we were not talking about pro-Palestinian activity, would these raids have been executed? So
Vandalism, pro-Palestinian. I'm imagining a very, very specific, I don't know, icon of 1930s-ish Germany appearing on places that are meant to intimidate or demonize. I don't know. I just have. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. Or maybe like several times of writing from the river to the sea or something.
what happened here?
Well, first of all, you're calling them raids, and I understand that, but this is the legal execution of search warrants where you have a court of law that has found that there's probable cause to believe that there's evidence of a crime.
Oh, is the AG defending these things? Uh-oh.
In these various different homes in which the search warrants were executed. It really bothered me, by the way, to see people talk about like no-knock raids. These were like hours-long negotiations trying to get people to open the doors, trying to get landlords to open the doors. And
Is she not feeding into the pearl-clutching outrage of our hosts? Wow, okay, interesting.
the way that law enforcement works is that if you refuse to voluntarily cooperate and open a door, law enforcement doesn't just leave.
They doesn't leave.
They don't just walk away. But
why were the search warrants issued? For what? I guess
If it's an ongoing investigation, she might not be able to tell you right now. You really, really want to make this. I have a sneaking suspicion that our host here was hoping that she was going to say this is some kind of federal thing, that Trump was behind this. I got a sneaking suspicion.
for vandalism, there are warrants, and you're going to folks' homes, and people are knocking out the doors. That's the question. So is it like, what was the reason?
yeah, we are talking about, again, over a dozen locations, including the Jewish Federation of Detroit, including multiple elected officials' homes, where you had, in many cases, it wasn't just that you had, vandalism that, again, is terrifying in nature, right?
And I mean, I love the fact that our host really, really, really wants to find out that these were unjustified actions because those poor pro-Palestinian protesters.
We're talking about people's homes that were defaced, people's
With, again, I just have this image that people were going around putting up a very antiquated symbol of hatred going on houses and such, targeting particular religious communities.
cars that were defaced, people who had their children's windows broken in, and then to have canisters full of noxious chemicals thrown into those rooms.
That sounds a little bit more than vandalism.
In the middle of the night. And this went on over and over and over in municipalities all around southeastern Michigan. And you know what? You can believe in a cause very much. And I encourage people, absolutely. I have been a part over the course of many decades of peaceful, lawful protests. But what you cannot do is commit crimes.
Yes, well, I'm glad to have you hear you say that, Attorney General Nessel, and I'm so glad that our host really, really, really decided to derail the entire conversation for her pet project on trying to turn into victims people who would be, I dare I say the word, by going to people's homes and leaving propaganda symbols, throwing noxious chemicals into their homes on the basis of their political or perhaps religious affiliations. I don't know. There's a word for when someone takes actions to try to intimidate others for the sake of a political or religious agenda. I think it's called terrorism. I think that's the word. I don't think vandalism quite covers it in this instance. But our host really, really, really wanted the AG to say that this was some kind of like illegal or unconstitutional or unjustified action against poor, just innocent pro-Palestinian protesters. That's what it was, an illegal raid or something. Well, I guess she ended up disappointed. So good on you, AG Nessel, on this one. Even if you're completely off base when it comes to DEI.
And, to say to these people, well, these are individuals who may believe very much in a particular cause. And so in furtherance of that cause, they can do literally anything they want, including come to your home in the middle of the night and destroy your property. And this had been going on for over a year. And at a certain point, when many different jurisdictions came together.
I have to pause occasionally for YouTube, guys. I can't let it go on for too long without saying something. So, the mom, thank you so much. This is the best impromptu non-TEDx talk. Non-TEDx talk. Need bingo. Yeah, no, I mean, I didn't expect to do a video on this stream. I thought I was going to be reading an article, but here we are, and it's just such this potpourri of interesting stuff. You have an attorney general who just seems blissfully ignorant of what DEI is while completely willing to defend it, which I love that part. But now, on the flip side, you have a activist host who's trying to cheer on her pet project of pro-Palestinian protesters. Try saying that 7 times fast. And unfortunately getting skunked by the AG telling her, no, this was all above board. This was all justified. This was all necessary. And the people doing this stuff aren't some, poor innocent children that were just speaking their minds. I just am more annoyed that our host completely derailed the conversation. I wanted to hear more from the AG on how she justified pushing back against discrimination. Or not pushing back against discrimination, but cheering on discrimination by pushing back against DEI being taken away.
And discovered who we believe the perpetrators of those crimes were. We did what we do in all crimes, right? We obtained legal search warrants and we executed those search warrants. And those cases will likely proceed based on the evidence that was discovered. But what we can't do is say, and I don't care what your cause is.
Okay, if she's just going to reiterate, yeah, it doesn't matter what your cause is. You can't, scare people, terrorize people, harass people, violate their privacy or destroy their property. Then, yeah, of course, completely on board with that.
Whether it's reproductive rights, whether it's LGBTQ rights, whether it's, rights for African Americans, whatever it is, you can't commit crimes in furtherance of that. And you can't.
Yeah. Why did she bring this up? Why did the host bring this up at all? What was she looking for in this?
You can't terrorize people. You can't terrorize entire communities.
Because her exasperation over why do they have the warrants? Why? She was looking for something juicy or something controversial or something that was somehow unjustified. And she didn't find it. Which I find entertaining in and of itself, but I have to ask, why are we even here?
Based on that, and in my opinion, many of the different types of graffiti was meant to inspire fear.
Yeah, I wonder what that graffiti consisted of. I can only imagine.
In not just individuals, but in entire communities, and that's why you attack, a nonprofit like the Jewish Federation, right?
Right.
And, it's my job. I'm the top law enforcement official in the state. And
You are. Tell me about Title VI. I gotta, if she won't bring it back, I'll bring it back. If you're the top law enforcement officer in the state, tell me about Title VI when it comes to school activities and programs.
I can't walk away from these things.
Oh, you can't.
And I can't say, well, if I agree with your cause or whether I disagree with your cause, it doesn't matter. It's my job to enforce the law. And that is exactly what we did. And we don't prosecute people who are just exercising their First Amendment, again, peacefully and lawfully.
Yeah, unless, of course, it's during the pandemic and then, never mind.
But if you're going to break the law, then you have to be held accountable. And I think it's an important message going forward because I think that peaceful protesting is going to be such a critically important part of fighting back against the Trump regime.
Important part of fighting back against the Trump regime. I'm glad to see that she's got such a neutral perspective on all of this. Fighting back against the Trump regime. You mean the legitimately elected office of the president?
That is sliding very quickly into a full-blown autocracy. Sliding
quickly into a full-blown autocracy. How so? Yeah, I hope your argument for that is better than your defense of DEI.
We need people to be in the streets. We need
Oh.
people to be exercising their First Amendment rights
But
and to demonstrating and telling the Trump administration we are not okay with this,
If
but
you're
we
going to commit a crime.
but we have to do it lawfully.
oh my gosh, well, boy, gosh, that's a brave statement, guys. Brave statement. Exercise your First Amendment rights, but don't commit any crimes. I know it's a crazy idea. Yeah, well.
And we have to do it in a way where we're not attacking police officers.
Oh, we can't attack police officers. Uh-oh. I just have a feeling that our I don't think this lady said anything this whole time. I bet they love hearing that. You mean I can't attack the cops?
And we have to do it in a way where we are showing that we are on the right side, but we're not hurting people, we're not attacking property, because I don't think that's going to win anybody over.
You don't say. Wow, thanks. Really insightful commentary from the Attorney General of Michigan.
General Nessel, Michigan Attorney General.
Okay. All right. Well, gosh, that was a lot less than I thought it would be. She completely derailed it with that Palestinian raid thing. What good gravy. Good gravy. Advocata. She was hoping to get a sound clip of her condemning the raids. Yes. She was hoping that this was going to be something that was spurred on by the federal government and not by state government, that it was something that the Attorney General had been against, that the warrants had been improperly issued or something. Nope. None for you. This is Kyle. Hey. The host was hoping the AG would blindly support the Hamas protesters. Yeah. Big Dave 1066. The Friendship Windmill, probably. The Friendship Windmill. That sounds like a kid's book. The Friendship Windmill. Faustonia, people in the streets coming at you. Summer of Love 2025. Buckle up. Yeah, I can't wait. We're getting into that season. We need something to protest. Oh boy, Summer of Love 2025. We need that big wave of protests. Didn't we have something like that a few days ago? What were they protesting? I heard about millions of protesters across the country doing it. I've already forgotten what they were protesting. That's how much of an impact it had. I don't even remember what it was at this point. I think people have become inured to it, you know? Even the media, it's like you get maybe a day or two of it and then it's just like, I move on to something else. And usually whenever they go up and talk to any individuals at these protests and ask them specific questions about what are you angry about, or what specifically did Trump do, or what did Marco Rubio specifically say or something, and no answers are forthcoming. We're just angry because it's Trump. It's just Trump. That's bad enough. But anyway, everybody, hadn't expected to watch a video, but there you go. Sometimes I can adapt. And that is DEI Deathwatch for Monday. There'll be a DEI Deathwatch on Friday, where I guess I'm honor bound now to do some research in between on LinkedIn, Costco, and Salesforce to take a look at what their public statements regarding DEI policies and expectations have been over the years. So I'll take a look at that between now and Friday. In the meantime, would you like to join the Discord server? Well, if you'd like to join the Discord server, I'll tell you, you can join the Discord server because I have a link pre-prepared for the Discord server. Link is in the chat right now. Click on that link. You'll find yourself on the landing channel called Say Hello. And in addition to saying hello, you just have to say the secret word. The secret word will tell me that you actually watched the stream, are not a bot, and have thus earned the right, the privilege, the entitlement to join the Discord server. And today's secret word is Michigan. Just say hello, Michigan, and I'll know that you watched the show. You can also find me on most Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings on Midnight's Edge in the morning at 9:05 a.m. Pacific Time, 12:05 p.m. Eastern Time, where we talk about box office and movies and stuff and things and stuff. And I was on this morning talking about the box office. That was fun. I'm getting ready to see Thunderbolts on Thursday. I can't say that I'm as excited as I made that sound just then, but I'll be morbidly curious at least. And speaking of Thursday, you can find me here Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern for TED Excellence, where I'll take a look at an official TEDx type talk. We'll have TEDx bingo and analysis and all that fun stuff. Who knows what the subject will be this week? There's a whole bunch of stuff I could do, like the paradox of sustaining female leadership in animation. I guess I could do that. Or how to actually fix the U.S. economy. That sounds exciting. Or why you think women aren't funny. I don't have to think women are funny. I just have to find them appealing. That's all. But elsewise, everyone, I want to thank you all for joining me. Moderators, thank you for keeping an eye on things, even though everyone here is so well behaved. You have very, very little to do. Everybody who donated either to myself or to the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society donation page at the top of the chat box, thank you guys so much for your generosity. Very much appreciate it. Would also appreciate it on the way out, if you haven't already, to leave a like and or a comment when you see this in the future. And if you like this kind of thing, whether it's me or any other content creator out there you appreciate, please do share our stuff so other people can know about it, because you guys are the best algorithm. Everyone, have a good rest of your Monday and week ahead of you. Those of you that have to deal with month-end billing and invoicing, I'm right there with you and you have my sympathies. And I hope you're all safe and well. If you're not well, please get well soon, and I'll see you on the next one. Take care. Bye-bye.